Welcome in, everybody. Hope you're ready, because we've got a day of NA relegations ahead of you, and it's going to be a good one. I can guarantee that. I'm Aggro, joined by... Who are you? Is that? Oh, Anatoly.
No. I'm Anatolievich.
Anatolievich. If you say so, I'm joined by this guy, and it's going to be a really fun day of NA relegations. If you missed it yesterday, EU was an absolute blast to watch.
There was just so many epic actions there. It was a little bit drawn out, I would say. Teams still trying to figure out the meta, so I wouldn't be too surprised if North America kind of follows suit as teams are trying new things.
That's a good point. Buckle in, because it could be a long one. Yesterday certainly was. Multiple 45-minute-plus games, a couple over 50 even. Have to wait and see if NA is going to follow suit in that regard. We talked about this yesterday, but we've got a lot of great promos for you at home watching. I mean, it's a relegations weekend. I mean, you got to celebrate somehow. 3 times Worshippers happening right now. You get those boosters on top of that. You're talking 6 times Worshippers. That's pretty crazy. We also have a chest on sale. The Spectacular Chest, 25% off.
You know, you got your Bacchus and Sobek in the front.
It's a couple Guardians. So why do you and Tom just want to talk about the gods that are on here? Go get yourself a Swagny skin. It's probably my favorite skin in there. And then the voice packs as well. If you're going to be rocking Swagny, you need the voice pack with it. And we are helping you out there as well. 50% off these voice packs. And all this is fun and games, but when it comes down to what everyone's looking forward to, at least me personally, HRX 2018, you can still get your tickets 25% off. Only a little bit longer on this deal. And trust me, you're going to want to be there.
And all these teams playing today want to be there. The most important split in the fall split for the path to HRX. These teams need to qualify here to get the Boko Bucks.
Absolutely. We got the fall split coming up. You can see the dates there on the left side of your screen, September 9th until October 8th. And then if your team qualifies, does well, it's going to be going to Super Regionals. That's on the far right. If your team doesn't do as well as you would hope, they still are alive. The Gauntlet is available. 10 teams total, the bottom 4 on each region, plus the top Challenger Circuit teams. The Gauntlet is always super fun to watch.
The last Gauntlet, we actually saw Team Rival be the victors of that one, defeating Energy and even meeting the finals here in the last DreamHack Valencia up against Dignitas. So a lot of high-caliber teams now approaching in the fall split.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun to watch that Gauntlet. I'm sure this one will be there to excite everyone as well. Let's take a look at the schedule and see what we have going on today. As I mentioned, NA relegations. We're going to start it off with Flashpoint versus the Gatekeepers. Next up is AI versus a Mighty Storm, but their clan tags kapow, so we're going to call them a little bit of both. And that's just going to be every team playing each other once throughout the day until we have our top 2 teams. Those will be the teams moving on to the SPL.
And depending on the match results after Game 4, 5 and 6 might not be needed, or there might need to be more than 6 games. Yesterday, in the European side of things, we saw a total of 9 games until we finally had 2 victors that would advance.
That was it was a lot of fun yesterday. The 2 SPL teams end up defending their spots, Burrito and the Poppies, so congratulations to them. We'll be watching them all fall split long. It's just a matter of who's going to be those 2 teams on the NA side of things. Is it going to be Flashpoint and Team AI defending their spots?
It's very possible, you know, being led by Shadowq for Flashpoint. His first opponent, though, against Gatekeepers, being led by PainDeViande. It's the battle of the old school supports.
Well, I don't think we have to wait much longer. Picks and bans ready for game number 1. It's Flashpoint versus the Gatekeepers. And as you mentioned, Tully, I think the duo lane is where I want to start off this talk, because the duo lanes here, Pain and DayToRemeber. DayToRemeber, one of the top Challenger Cup players. I think a lot of people surprised that he hasn't made it into the SPL yet. And then Shadowq and Sops, how are those 2 going to go against each other?
It's very difficult to say because we haven't really seen Pain pair up with DayToRemeber. We saw what a performance DayToRemeber had during the Gauntlet, actually, with Oxygen Supremacy, going on a very impressive 7-2 run, so you can never count them out. But you never really know what Shadowq and Sops have been preparing in the dark while they were waiting for this relegations.
Gatekeepers, Banaway, Camazotz, and Odin, Flashpoint, Hell, and Robin. And then the first pick, Ganesh here. So we talked about supports being the primary focus potentially for these 2 teams, but I don't think I was expecting Ganesh first pick.
Normally, Terra is prioritized over the Ganesh, but this is a different option where you're going for more aggressiveness. You're looking for boosting up your team's damage with the Spirit Ball. You're also looking to control a lot of space with those Dharmic Pillars, and that's something that PainDeViande is known to do, just to be super aggressive.
Chulainn the pick now for Gatekeepers. Flashpoint answered back with Terra, as we expected, kind of, and then Thoth there in the mid lane for ManRay. Gatekeepers go for the Skadi. Skadi played all day yesterday, won nearly every game, and I think the one game she lost, Game Hunter got a penta. So is that really an L at the end of the day? Skadi definitely making her way back into the meta in a big way, and so is this guy. Sun Wukong has been dominant in the solo lane for a couple months now.
A little risky to run Skadi this early in the draft against a Terra and a Thoth, a goddess that can easily lock you down between the root and the stun, and then you have a Thoth that can just blow you away from a distance, no questions asked.
Two mid lane bans, the Morrigan and Ra. This is targeted at moswal, the mid laner for Gatekeepers. He was once a part of Noble in the SPL and a top tier mid laner in the Challenger circuit, no doubt. Kernanos and Hu Yi banned away from Sops, and they're going to wait for that last Hunter pick, it seems like. Batz, the selection for Flashpoint. So now Gatekeepers, they still need a mid laner and what could be a jungler or a solo laner. Osiris didn't get banned away. Two warriors, which is very popular yesterday. A lot of teams really like this double warrior composition, one in solo, one in the jungle, and Gatekeepers going with it.
Zeus, though, surprisingly, we haven't seen this god in quite a long time. No. Really trying to control a lot of space in the jungle, maybe trying to focus down some of these objectives with the Gold Fury between the Ganesha Dharmic Pillars, the Zeus Lightning Storm. That could be a good tactic, trying to get a huge boost of gold in the early game and to carry you in the later stages.
Yeah, we saw it yesterday. Mr. Nazer played it for the Poppies, but you're right, we haven't seen this god as of late. Have to wait and see how moswal can perform on it. Ram, the final selection there for Sops. Ram, pretty good matchup into Skadi. No real surprise. You can hit Skadi through Kaldir whenever he's hitting you with those astral arrows.
You're able to get the double proc also, if I recall correctly, to one astral arrow takes away 2 health points out of Kaldir. And not only that, every single time you're going to get ultied by the Skadi, you just take to the sky and you're waiting for your team to kind of bail you out. And looking at the team composition from Flashpoint, between the long range of Sops ultimate in conjunction with ManRay, you're looking at a very aggressive double monkey combination from the jungle solo.
Very well could be the case. As far as SPL Gatekeepers go, Grave, their jungler, is going to be playing the Chulainn. I kind of expected the Chulainn would stay in the solo lane and it'd be Osiris in the jungle. Why do you think we see this particular composition?
It's simply because you're trying to do a lot of burst damage early on, and that's something that Chulainn has a huge advantage towards. If you can proc that rage mode, if you can stay consistently over that threshold, or at least get close to the threshold before you initiate a team fight with that ultimate, you're going to get off so many abilities and just be an absolute nightmare. And up against ManRay, he's going to have to keep his distance.
Not a lot of purification beads on the side of Flashpoint, only Sops with those beads. Mexiety, he went for the blink, and then Aegis in the mid lane for ManRay. But ManRay goes for the Book of Thoth rush as well, starting with that Soul Trap. moswal sticking with that Bumba's Mask start, so look to see moswal try and solo down some camps by himself, whereas ManRay, he's going to need some help.
It makes sense that ManRay went for the Aegis amulet, looking at the composition from Gatekeepers. As long as he has to avoid the initial dash from PainDeViande or the knockup from Grave, he can even use the dash backwards just to get out of the Dharmic Pillars.
On the left side, the duo lane for the SPL Gatekeepers pushed that initial wave and then came in and tried to steal away the red from Flashpoint. They were unsuccessful in doing so. Sops able to secure that. But then they made Flashpoint make a choice. Do we defend the purple or go for the wave? And XenonHawk's in a lot of trouble in this solo lane. Grave, this double warrior composition, ends up paying off early on. First blood for the SPL Gatekeepers.
And now Grave is going to have a huge boost in his transition towards mid lane. Having this first blood, an extra big bounty, is going to help out moswal just to farm very safely and not have to worry about any sort of aggression from either ManRay or Mexiety.
We talked about yesterday in terms of the Zeus pick for Mr. Nazer that warrior jungle is a big reason why we don't see as much Zeus, because Zeus really struggles against warriors on top of him. But when you've got 2 warriors on your team to try and protect you, that can work out pretty well.
And it also forces, whenever you have a huge burst mage such as Zeus, you're forcing the jungler potentially to get that magical defense probably earlier than he wants. Whenever there's a double warrior between solo and jungle, you're rushing the gladiator shield, maybe even the shifter shield, but there needs to be more defensive options if you're really trying to dive a Zeus.
Mexiety on this Batz is going to have to try and avoid some of that big burst damage, even without any sort of purification beads, as Grave looks like he might transform, but decides to vent the anger. Keep an eye on that yellow bar. Remember, Chulainn does not use mana, instead has a rage mechanic there, and after he's sitting over 85% rage for a short duration, that's when he transforms. So you can kind of transform in awkward positions where you're not really ready for it.
But it makes it a good transition in the jungle, because then you can look to make this rotation onto ManRay. Sitting probably around 70 to 80 right now is Grave in the rage meter. So if he hits the ultimate, he's going to be getting a decent amount here, a couple more shots, and then he's going to instantly transform, which gives him enough time to use all his abilities in the normal form and then just get ready to dump the rest of his kit.
I think we saw XenonHawk kind of fall victim to a lack of matchup knowledge against the Chulainn, because it's so difficult to understand that, okay, he's got 4 abilities like every other regular god, and holy crap, he just got 4 more abilities. He hit me with 8 abilities in a really short amount of time. You have to be ready for that sort of stance switch, but both sides still have an ultimate and 3 abilities on top of that. Chulainn very unique in his sort of passive and in the way his kit works.
And whenever he does get hit a little bit more, you're building that rage. So you want to try to take those trades as a Chulainn to be able to try to proc that rage. So you might be thinking like, oh, we got him down to 20% health. Well, all of a sudden now he's transformed and he's turning the tide for his team.
Mexiety just now hitting level 5. Grave sitting at level 6. Going to start up the enemy speed buff. Grave trying to build some rage right now and secure this. It does get secured with help from moswal, but now Grave's in a lot of trouble. No purification beads, and Final Judgment comes through and erases Grave 1-1 now. Flashpoint puts themselves on the board.
Taking advantage of the warrior that doesn't have that CC immunity unless he procs his ultimate at the right timing. Unfortunately for him, he didn't get the shell off, he didn't pop that ultimate, and it was a great coordination from Flashpoint, utilizing ManRay's ultimate during that Fear No Evil.
MandoWarrior in some trouble on the right, a couple man tether, but not giving that percent damage mitigation as he keeps going. Stun off the mark, but the slow is there. Shell comes through and saves MandoWarrior's life, but did cost him the use of his ultimate. 4 people in that lane early on in this game.
And it was a great little bait as well. He had no worries considering that he still had the ultimate, he still had Shell to be able to survive. Grave now going in, jumping in, uses that ultimate. Mexiety's dash is down, and that's going to be a return kill.
The lack of purification beads has come back to bite both junglers early on in this game. Grave dies to the Fear No Evil Final Judgment combination. Mexiety there. Blink doesn't help you when you're next to a Chulainn who's venting anger, who's basically got Mystical Mail built into that kit and that second ability. You're not going to be able to blink away from that. So both relic choices a little bit more aggressive, I would say, and they've both led to a death for a jungler.
Mexiety could have probably survived if he used a monkey bounce teleport towards the wave and then jump after he teleports, creating 2 different distance gap closers is what you need to be able to get away from a Chulainn, because he's going to be able to cut the distance with his own jump and then potentially find a little bit of a root on you.
DayToRemeber has got not a big lead, but a lead in this duo lane. Take a look at the XP per minute on the bottom left side of your screen. 684 for the Skadi, and sops sitting pretty low for a hunter. Usually it's the 2 hunters right up on top next to each other, but I guess DayToRemeber has just been keeping control of those oracles. We saw the invade on the left side take away the minis on the purple of the first spawn, so it's certainly paying off so far for DayToRemeber.
It's also going for a different build route. We're seeing sops go for more of this mid-game style by rushing the Devil Gloves, now receiving a buff on both the base physical power, and then once you completed all the stacks, totaling now to about 65 physical power, whereas DayToRemeber is probably going to be working on that Transcendence, trying to get as much physical power to make sure Chaldir does his damage and the rest of his kit.
Now, that XP per minute on the left side for SPL Gatekeepers is good news, but not as good as the right side of the map. Take a look at where Osiris is in comparison to XenonHawk on the Sun Wukong. Over 200 additional XP per minute. That's a 2-level lead right now. Mexiety also very far behind in the jungle in terms of XP, sitting about a level and a half down to that of Grave.
The difference between level 9 and 7 is not too impactful, but you're really going to start feeling it between 12 and 10 once that second relic becomes available. But we're going to see a speed buff invade for a second time, Mexiety forcing the issue.
But ManRay misses the ultimate this time. Grave finds the knockup. moswal drops the ultimate, and Grave drops Mexiety. 3 now for SPL Gatekeepers, and Grave wants to keep it going. There's the ultimate, the tremble onto XenonHawk. Plenty of damage onto the soul laner, and moswal pulls the trigger, getting the 4th kill for the SPL Gatekeepers. This time, the invade goes beautifully for the Challenger Cup team.
Just wasn't in range, rather, ManRay, to follow up off of that ultimate. Grave was in a great position with the rest of his team. PainDeViande was there to capitalize this time around. And SPL Gatekeepers, they came in with a strategy of the Chulainn for the jungle, and so far it's been working out really well between this first blood and 2 successful speed buff invades. Despite that early death, he was able to capitalize off of another kill on some Mexiety in the solo lane, and there's just nothing but the upper ground here for this jungler out of SPL Gatekeepers.
It cost SPL Gatekeepers 4 of their 5 relics. Only DayToRemeber, who was nowhere near that fight, got to save his, but they all escape. They get 2 kills and the enemy speed and continue to push that lead on the right side of the map. Pain trying to steal away one of the oracles, and he does so successfully. This is a big lead on the right side. I mean, we're talking a 3,000 gold lead in total, Toli, and honestly, I'll bet you most of that's on the right.
It seems that way for the most part. It's MandoWarrior getting the better end of XenonHawk, considering how successful Grave was in shutting down Mexiety. If you shut down the jungler, your solo and mid laner is going to slowly fall behind, whether it's gold or experience. And we haven't really seen too much of that between moswal or ManRay, since they've been mostly soloing a lot of their waves, a lot of 2v2s in the solo lane. But eventually, it's going to trickle in that lane as well.
That being said, though, I think Flashpoint's roster transitions into the late game much better than that of SPL Gatekeepers. 2 warriors, you're losing a lot of damage in the late game. They'll still be tanky, they'll still be difficult to deal with in terms of dealing damage, but they won't be doing a lot themselves. And Zeus in the late game is good, yes, but Thoth is better. And sure, Rama is pretty good in the late game, but Skadi's right there with him. I'd rather have a Batz in the late game than a warrior jungle. I think Flashpoint, if this game goes late, should have the advantage based on team comp.
As long as they can get to the late game, because it's looking a little bit shaky at this point. Level 9 on sops, 11 for DayToRemeber. Things are getting a little bit more lopsided. Level 12 to 10 for Mando versus XenonHawk. And the only advantage I see for Flashpoint is their range.
There's DayToRemeber, gets blinked on by Mexiety. That Monolith actually body blocks him beautifully. Only took 1 ultimate there. Now Shadowq is going to have to use that Terra's Blessing just in case, because Grave is on the rotation. There's a sprint popped by PainDeViande. Grave trying to chase down sops and will find him, but ultimate still available to buy some time.
Grave just waiting for that victim, as well as moswal now making the rotation. Dash is not available, popping the purification beads. Will get out of the lightning storm, but ManRay will stun out Grave for the moment, but PainDeViande with a nice interrupt.
A little bit off the mark there from moswal's ultimate, but the detonate damage is going to hit whether you hit your ultimate or not, so it ends up setting up Grave for his 3rd kill. Sops is a little bit too greedy going for that wave after the pick on a DayToRemeber, and that's the first time we've seen any action at all for either of the hunters. And I think that's Flashpoint kind of recognized what we were just discussing, and that's that Skadi in the late game is really the only scary part of SPL Gatekeepers late game comp.
It's so unfortunate that sops took a spill there, because that's the one hope that he has to get back into the game. Once DayToRemeber dies, that respawn timer will allow sops to catch up in the experience department, but since he got return killed, now it makes it more difficult, and it's just going to be a reign supreme for the Skadi.
Pain gets his dash interrupted and might be in some trouble. No stun there from ManRay, so Pain gonna survive. Does have that Hide of the Urchin completed, so pretty tanky already at this stage of the game.
It's very scary to try to even go on any corner or crevice without vision, considering you're up against a Zeus. The chain lightning off of the shield is gonna make such an impact.
Pain again, the focus, but down below half HP this time around. Final Judgment comes through, and all of a sudden he's gone just like that. Grave gets hit by the Fear and Weevil. That's 2 quick picks for Flashpoint, nearly evening up the game. 4-5 now, still SPL Gatekeepers in the lead, but Flashpoint on their way back. They get the oracles, but cannot pull the Gold Fury quite yet. Both DayToRemeber and moswal in the area, and both have their ultimates.
Just a little bit too out of position and ambitious, and moswal gets caught out of position yet again. Not the vision that they needed. DayToRemeber trying to answer back, jumping into the mid lane as MandoWarrior was waiting for him, missing the somersault cloud. DayToRemeber is going to be safe under his own tier 1 tower.
Wow, XenonHawk off the mark. Day with the good jukes gets him out of danger. MandoWarrior a little bit behind on the rotation. Sops going for the sky, looking for the snipes on the DayToRemeber, but can't quite find him. Flashpoint end up only getting moswal there, but they trade out Mexiety for that kill.
Didn't have his X-ray vision goggles on for that one, so taking a life on one side. Not a lot of return kills for both of these teams so far. It was SPL Gatekeepers that was running the show now, but these last couple of interactions, they've been overextending beyond that invisible mid-line marker and into the jungle of Flashpoint, where they're just getting consistently punished. I'd like to see them pull it back a little bit and wait for an opening before they go for any sort of objective.
And moswal kind of getting caught out on that bottom left-hand side. All it took was the blink from Mexiety. There was no Fear No Evil. There was no ultimate at all from anyone on the side of Flashpoint, excuse me. That's kind of what can happen to Zeus. So you jump on top of him, you can close that gap, burn him down before he can burn you. It's usually a pretty easy kill.
Which is why moswal is looking to probably build into this Warlock Sash, trying to get that health to be able to survive the initial burst damage from the Hunbats.
Grave looking for some poke damage on a Mexiety. We'll find it in combination with MandoWarrior. Better poke damage on a Shadowq, and here comes the Lightning Storm right on top of the Ganesha ultimate as well to strip the protections. I like the idea there. You could see that that was clearly a strategy as a speed buff invade goes successfully for SPL Gatekeepers, but stun off the mark from Flashpoint. Even with Shadowq's ultimate, not enough to catch up to the Challenger Cup team.
Surprised that Shadowq didn't even need to use the ultimate to survive initially, and that's just goes to show how tanky supports are, even at level 10 here without too many defensive items. MandoWarrior gonna get stunned out by XenonHawk, but the rest of Flashpoint are more concerned about trying to deal with this tier 1 tower siege.
DayToRemeber and the rest of SPL Gatekeepers will go to the enemy red buff. Very objective-minded so far, and that's a phrase I use a lot, but it really does separate the average teams from the good teams, and trying to not necessarily look for kills all the time, but look for objectives is how you get leads like this one, about 2,500 gold at the 14-minute mark.
About 3 speed buff invades for the Gatekeepers, a few red buff invades to follow up is why they have such a huge experience gap, specifically in the solo and hunter role heading into the 14-minute mark. They're probably going to look to eventually start grouping up for towers before they go for Gold Furies, unless they can find some picks in the jungle. Having Zeus here for moswal gives them a lot of space control.
Kind of surprised, Grave got punished for not having purification beads twice before he hit level 12, and then decided that he'd rather have Blink anyways. Is this the direction you would have gone?
It's kill or be killed in the mindset for Grave. He doesn't really care about getting Fear No Evil. He's probably expecting moswal to get targeted by Mexiety instead, so as long as Grave can do the same on the backline of Flashpoint, he believes that he will do a better job at creating havoc than Mexiety will.
I like the idea of his build, though, going for it's likely to be a mass immune next, as sops takes a big chunk of damage from DayToRemeber. Skadi does a lot of damage.
And that wasn't even an ultimate from DayToRemeber either. He could have used that just to get him even lower. And I love the idea to not use that ultimate, not commit, because now if he ever gets ganked, he could use that defensively. However, by leaving the lane now, this is going to allow sops to just sit in lane, farm it up, and utilize that lifesteal on his Devourer's Gauntlets.
XenonHawk taking a lot of damage here in the solo lane. MandoWarrior thought about the ultimate for just a moment, but instead going to use this pressure to maybe rotate over and keep XenonHawk down. There's the blink forward, 3-man knockup from Grave, but absolutely no follow-up there. Now transforms and still zoning out the opposition. Sops lurking, Grave handling 3, but the rest of the team just can't quite commit to the goal.
Gold Furies at half health. Sop dashes in, forces the ultimate out of moswal. They really want to burn this down. DayToRemeber is there. He will secure it for SPL Gatekeepers, and they're going to walk away cleanly here. MandoWarrior not even going to get stunned out.
MandoWarrior level 16. Difficult to bring him down, but Sop's gonna roll forward. Big chain lightning comes through. There's the blink Fear No Evil right onto moswal, but he had the purification beads. Final Judgment doesn't do enough, and Graves gonna find Mexiety once again. MandoWarrior is gonna clean up Shadowq as well, and now it's 2 kills for the SPL Gatekeepers, and they're looking for more. Sop's very low underneath that tower. He's gonna take to the sky, but I don't know if he'll be able to survive totally.
Already 2 dead. Make that 3 with the Sops taking a spill. DayToRemeber credited with that one. Gold Fury going for SPL Gatekeepers. Now transitioning over towards the Portal Demon, a very greedy North American team that's succeeding.
All about half HP, but you're looking at ManRay low on mana. XenonHawk about half HP himself. No ultimate for either one. MandoWarrior doing a great job of zoning out. ManRay going to use the dash, but can't steal it away. Could be an opportunity, though, for MandoWarrior to chase him down, recognizing that that stun was used.
XenonHawk is going to get stunned out here, but MandoWarrior has no mana. He's just baiting out to allow moswal and Grave right around the corner. Now, I did call Gatekeepers a little greedy there simply because Grave was doing his speed buff while the rest of his team was doing the Portal Demon, and everyone was rather low. Granted, there was only 2 people alive for Flashpoint, but ManRay alone does enough damage to potentially burn down a less than 50% health PainDeViande.
But 2v3, now 4 as Gatekeepers want to push forward. Grave has that transformation. Big damage on a Mexiety, and all of a sudden another kill onto Flashpoint's jungler, who's had a tough time in this one. 5-2 for Grave, 2-5 for Mexiety. And what looks like could have been a bad engagement ends up working beautifully for the Gatekeepers, now looking for more.
They're trying to bait out for this Fire Giant. Grave will attempt to zone out here. It's already at less than half health. The Fire Lava has come out. It's going to be a little bit of a reset. No, they're going to hold on to it. Final Judgment being used. It wasn't even close, though.
moswal going to use that ultimate. No, it gets stolen away! XenonHawk with the Somersault Cloud snatches the Fire Giant right away from the Gatekeepers. moswal just a little bit early on that detonate, and you can't peel away, and there's a Wukong in his ult.
It's very difficult to peel away almost any warrior at that stage. It's only 18 minutes into the game, and SPL Gatekeepers, they had a 5-on-4 advantage. Immediately, no hesitation, going for the Fire Giant. A little bit too ambitious for my liking.
XenonHawk, again, stealing away an objective. A little bit less impactful than a Fire Giant, the blue buff, but I'm sure that he's happy with that one. Gatekeepers were in control, and still are realistically, but that play from the Sun Wukong opens the door for Flashpoint to try and get back into this one. Grave gets hit by the Blink Fear to Weevil, big damage onto the jungler, and sops gets revenge with the help of Mexiety. Another kill for Flashpoint, now with Fire Giant and a 5v4. This is a great opportunity to recoup some of that lost gold.
Yeah, it's going to be an easy opportunity for Flashpoint to slowly get back into the game here. Their ultimate from moswal is not available to try to defend this tier 1 tower. Forced to give it up, 500 gold going for Flashpoint. They're able to really capitalize off of this one pick, and that one duration of Fear No Evil was all it took to take out Grave. Despite having Gladiator Shield, Masamune, and everybody being around him, it wasn't enough time to get out of the Fear No Evil to pop that shell.
Executioner coming up big there for sops, not only increasing the damage that he's doing to the enemy warrior jungle, but also the damage that Mexiety's doing. Those auto attacks stripping away protections, always been a core item and recently buffed for the Hunters. sops already starting to make an impact in this one. As you mentioned, mid-game sort of build, going for the Devourer's Gauntlets. Now that those are stacked and you've got the Xe, we've hit mid-game, and sops is starting to hit pretty hard.
And an interesting point to make out is sops' decision of the Warrior Tabby. He's really relying on his steroid for the attack speed. He wanted that extra 20 physical power difference between Warrior and Ninja Tabby to also boost up the damage coming out of his ultimate.
I think I like that. We do see a lot of Ninja Tabby for Ram, but with that, how potent that steroid is whenever you max it out, you're going to be getting close to over 2 attacks a second anyways. And then you add in something like Wind Demon, you could go for some crit. You're going to be hitting really hard with those. And you're going to be increasing attack speed off those crits if you go Wind Demon, or if you're going for the penetration options, usually chin size, that's going to have attack speed. You often finish off a build like that with Odysseus Bow, a bunch of attack speed. So I think having that extra 20 power when you can get it in the early game is when you really need it as well, can make a big difference.
Especially if somebody in your team is going to be building that Shogun's Kusari anyway. sops will be in a really good position in that late game. Now working on that crit a little bit. The Gold Fear will respawn at this point, but it's actually Gatekeepers trying to zone out the rest of Flashpoint. They were successful in the last attempt. Question is, can they find a pick?
I like the Gatekeepers are still playing aggressive here. They still have a 5K lead, or closer to 4 now. Still have a big XP lead, but they do have to be careful because Flashpoint still has a Fire Giant buff on them for about 45 seconds. Poke being exchanged back and forth. That's going to favor Flashpoint every time. Not only because of the Fire Giant buff, but because of that Terra sustain as well.
This is a really bad time to fight for Gatekeepers. Only 29 stacks on the Warlock Sash for moswal. His damage is just not evident at this point. The Fire Regen along with the Monolith heal from Shadowq is enough to negate all that detonate damage.
MandoWarrior around the back Grave with the blink forward. 2-man knock up there, but Shadowq's the focus as moswal's ultimate doesn't make an impact. It does zone away Shadowq though. He can't get back to his team, but it's still so tanky. MandoWarrior going in, looking for the enemy support, but can't quite find him. Grave right there with him, and Grave, he gets picked off. A first kill going Flashpoint's way. Nice permafrost and PainDeViande with the big silence, but Mexiety gets his ultimate off before he falls.
Beautiful chain lightning from a moswal. DayToRemeber is going to secure that pick. 1-for-1, jungle for jungle. Unfortunately, MandoWarrior didn't get his shell off to save his jungler, but now Flashpoint is the one being a little bit too ambitious. Nice stun, though, coming out of ManRay.
But big chain lightning again. Detonate waiting, but not enough to finish anyone off. But sops still looking for the snipes, and he's going to find him. Kill on a DayToRemeber, and now it's a 4v3. Pain still has that silence. XenonHawk gonna fall here. moswal with the easy kill. 3 autos and a detonate. That's a dead warrior.
Expecting his teammates to be a little bit closer than they actually were. Really fearful of that potential chain lightning. It was a great idea to back off there, but XenonHawk getting silenced for so long from PainDeViande prevented him from getting off most of his abilities. And surprisingly, XenonHawk elected not to go for that Gladiator shield. I was thinking that he was baiting himself, like, okay, I'm going to take this damage and I'm going to heal from a Gladiator shield. But that wasn't the case here. He's actually finished off Heart of the Urchin, has that 2 stacks. Now what looks to be finishing off that Shogun's Kusari.
Portal Demon started up by the Gatekeepers. They do have the Sentry Ward, but Mexiety does have a Blink ultimate. No Purification Beads for Mex. He instead went for the Aegis Amulet. Gatekeepers decide they don't want to worry about that, especially with that Fear No Evil available, considering Graves doesn't have any Purification Beads. moswal survived that entire fight without using a relic and did plenty of damage in that one. That was a big fight from him to keep Gatekeepers, keep Flashpoint, I should say, off of the Gold Fury, but now he's going to have to do another one as Grave is all the way on the right. I don't think DayToRemeber is going to get here in time, and he will not. Gold Fury goes Flashpoint's way, and all of a sudden, totally, what was a big lead for the Gatekeepers is all but gone.
Sops has finished off his Deathbringer. We saw those big red giant numbers on that Gold Fury. Those crits helping secure that objective so fast that there was no time for DayToRemeber to get in position to even steal it out. Thought it was actually the Hunbats, the passive crits there, but it might have been a combination of both here. So any frontline presence from Gatekeepers needs to be mindful about this late game damage out of Sops.
Shadowq going for a slightly different build. Sovereignty, a little bit old school. We saw, I believe it was Murder go for that yesterday in Relegations, but I believe that's an Oni's Hunter's Garb, not the usual Genjis we see. Why the Onis over the Genjis?
It's all about a little bit of the crowd control reduction. You're getting a little bit of everything, you know, between the MP5, magical protection, the health, and then the way the passive works as well, trying to build some of these stacks that's going to get stripped away as you take magical damage.
And you're not going to be taking a lot, I suppose, from Pain. It's going to be mostly moswal, and moswal just having that extra burst right away is pretty important to protect you from chain lightning and a detonate. Just even if they get stripped away eventually, it's not a dot character. Zeus does have a couple instances of damage, but it will be difficult for him to strip all of those away as we're nearly 25 minutes in. Gatekeeper still in the lead, 12-8, still have about a 3,000 gold lead, but Flashpoint has made some big objective plays. XenonHawk stealing away a Fire Giant, and then they burn down a Gold Fury before Gatekeepers can respond. I mean, this game is getting pretty close to even, and as we mentioned, I think Flashpoint's come in the late game's a little bit scarier.
ManRay was thinking about channeling that final judgment, knowing that the Portal Demon's being completed here. PainDeViande is baiting himself out. His team gets the objective, but he's already at less than half health. Shadowq popping out Terra's Blessing. The rest of Flashpoint, they're looking to catch somebody out of position.
Mexiety with the Blink, Fear No Evil, catches Grave, but it was just on the edge. Big damage on a ManRay, but not enough to bring him down quite yet. 2 shells come through to save his life. The 3 snipes on the mark from Sops, but still not enough to bring down that warrior jungler who just finished off that Spirit Robe, and he needed every single protection it gave him.
XenonHawk could have potentially looked to dive a little bit further once he was in that Somersault Cloud. If he landed onto Grave and hit him with 1 Cudgel, 1 Master's Will, that's a guaranteed pick onto Grave. The problem was whether or not XenonHawk would live after the fact. His shell is still available to survive a little longer, but look at this. Gatekeepers, they didn't find any picks this time. It's a 5-on-5 Fire Giant attempt.
And Flashpoint used every single ultimate. They still have 2 available to the Gatekeepers, and there's one of them. MandoWarrior goes up and down with the Lord of the Afterlife looking for Shadowq, and he will find him. Lucky number 13, and now SPL Gatekeepers again look towards the Fire Giant. XenonHawk backs, decides he can't be impactful with his low HP. Final Judgment comes through again. far too early from ManRay, and now Sops is in a lot of trouble.
But Mexiety's Fear No Evil will keep him alive. PainDeViande is going to be the first victim for Gatekeepers in this interaction. MandoWarrior trying to dive the backline will get slowed by Mexiety's Grave is going to make sure to help him out, and a nice Furious Monkey to secure that solo laner.
And XenonHawk is back, finds a stun onto Grave. ManRay didn't get a chance to steal away the Fire Giant with that ultimate, but certainly making an impact with those stuns, setting up Mexiety for the turnaround kill onto MandoWarrior. The two frontliners, Pain and Mando, just going a little bit too hard there, Tolly, both separated from the rest of their teams.
It was just, they got to pick onto Shadowq, 5-on-4, and now they think that they can run the whole entire world with it, but they were also really low from just even doing the Fire Giant. You know, after the lines come out from Fire Giant, you're dealing with the AoE pools, and that alone just chunked the Gatekeepers.
Now it's Flashpoint's turn to try and pull that objective, but Grave finds a 3-man knockup directly to the Lightning Storm. Good combination there between the mid-jungle for the Gatekeepers, and it forces out multiple members, but now Grave's in a lot of trouble. XenonHawk is going to claim him. Another Chain Lightning comes through from moswal, but not enough to bring anybody down. Sops was trying to keep up that Fire Giant. Remember, he does have those fully stacked Devourer's gauntlets, but whenever you're the one tanking Fire Giant, you not only deal less damage to the objective, but also lifesteal less as well. Very difficult to solo that.
Grave taking another death here in this mid game. Very important kill for Flashpoint, having a 5-on-4 advantage, but because they're so low, they can't really secure this objective.
We checked in with Grave when he was 5-2 and Mexiety was 2-5. Well, now Mexiety's 3-6, so one of each, but Grave 5-5 now. He's really struggled in the later stages. Early game, this Chulainn jungle was going great, but now kind of getting punished for the lack of defensive relics in my mind. ManRay's done a great job. I mean, ManRay's 2 levels down from moswal. If we take a look at the player damage charts, I believe ManRay is way on top right now.
Great performance out of ManRay, but because of the lack of defensive relics from Grave, with the exception of Shell, he's gone for the Spirit's Robe, expecting to be heavily focused fire during the Fear No Evil. This time around, once he also completes a little bit more magical defense to survive against ManRay, it's going to be more difficult for Flashpoint to find this initial pick, and Gatekeepers can keep baiting Grave to allow moswal to start catching up to the damage of ManRay.
Gold Fury went down to half HP in no less than 3 seconds. It was quick. Now DayToRemeber is the one picking it up, but the wall's actually prevented, and then Gold Fury goes down to Flashpoint. A quick steal away from the SPL team trying to retain their spot. Grave, big Fear No Evil out of Mexiety. Lightning Storm comes down, and it's enough damage to set up DayToRemeber for the kill onto Shadowq. Snipes coming through, not enough from Sops, as Mexiety and XenonHawk forced to jump away. Xenon's clone still going to help out, but not a whole lot. Flashpoint get the Gold Fury. They lose their support in the process.
Shadowq going to revive in 25 seconds. Still has his Terra's Blessing once he respawns. And look at this. Gatekeepers slowly moving to the right side. They'll Sentry Ward right in front of Fire Giant, denying the vision. They're going to try to probably bait out Flashpoint. I can't imagine that Gatekeepers will stick on this.
No, already down to about 2/3 HP. Sops is here. No ultimate for him. No Aegis for him either. Pain still on this with DayToRemeber and moswal, but you are right, Tolly. Immediately off of it, but immediately into the back line goes MandoWarrior looking for ManRay. Shadowq respawns and uses that ultimate, but Grave blinks in, knocked up before he can get the ultimate off. Big play there coming out of the solo laner, but it doesn't end up mattering. Grave does find ManRay anyways, so that's the big source of damage that Gatekeepers have had trouble dealing with. Immediately off the board, the double warriors make life difficult for the mid laner.
5-on-4 advantage, but PainDeViande had to back. He had no mana in his kit, so he's going to back on out while the rest of his team gets the speed buff. I was assuming they were going to go for the Portal Demon, but the rest of Flashpoint will contest all objectives. Even with one member down, the revive from Shadowq with the Terra's Blessing wasn't enough to save his mid laner's life. And this is something that Gatekeepers has been doing a great job in terms of creating disruption in the back, whether it's Grave or MandoWarrior.
Now the Portal Demon's still waiting to be pulled. I mean, this thing, all these objectives have been so heavily contested. All the fights have been around objectives, and so that's a good sign, but teams need to be a little bit cleaner in terms of actually securing them whenever they pull.
And now the gold is completely even at 65,000. Portal Demon being pulled by the Gatekeepers. Flashpoint trying to get in position. XenonHawk not able to steal that one away, but the Dharmic Pillars from Pain is trying to separate the gap.
Grave still going for Sops. He's going to get Fear No Evil again, and big damage onto him. The shell comes through, but it's not enough. No, it was the shell for Flashpoint, Both shells on cooldown for the Gatekeepers. DayToRemeber gets picked off by all 3 snipes. Stun onto MandoWarrior as he's the one trying to keep everyone from Flashpoint at bay, but they're all chasing down that tiny little corridor. moswal does have his ultimate, and down it comes, but ManRay's gonna delete DayToRemeber with the final judgment right as that happens, and now it's still Flashpoint pushing forward. Shell comes through, silence as well. Mexiety low, but the stun is good. ManRay claims another, and 3 dead now on the side of Gatekeepers, who get the objective, but lose the Fire Giant potentially in the process.
Gatekeepers were clean for the first 10 minutes of the game, and then after that point, they've just been constantly letting the game slip to allow Flashpoint to get back into it slowly. Flashpoint, they originally stole the Fire Giant the first time around. It looks like they're going to be able to secure the second.
They're going to try. MandoWarrior and Pain are here. Grave respawns, but he's got to walk back from base. So Shadowq uses the ultimate. MandoWarrior looking for the kills, and there comes the Fear No Evil again. This Mexiety ultimate has been so impactful for Flashpoint. Pain now the focus because the Fire Giant can wait. Just wait for these players to be pushed out, then go for the objective. That's what Flashpoint goes for.
Look at Grave
on the way. He's got that blink totally.
He's trying to get in. The Fire Giant is very low, knocking up 4 members, but will still be secured by Flashpoint. Grave trying to get out, but it's going to be a second dead frontliner for Gatekeepers, and Flashpoint, with all 5 members of Fire Giant and a good advantage, should be able to get some towers.
I can't believe Grave didn't get that. That Fire Giant must have been less than 100 HP because that was perfectly timed. The knockup hit everyone in that pool, so Grave gets a free shot of the Fire Giant while everyone's knocked up, and he just didn't have quite enough damage.
And unfortunately, not enough rage to transform into that other side of him. If he did that, then maybe he would at least find another victim before he takes a spill. But either way, now Gatekeepers, they once had a 5,000 gold deficit, now climbing on top of the charts slowly but surely. This gold lead that they've established at the 33-minute mark, meaningless, but it's all about the Fire Giant buff, trying to control the map with these towers down.
And there's plenty of gold on the map right now for them to take. 5,000 just from towers alone, 1,500 for each tier 2, 500 for the lone tier 1 that was still standing. They're getting claimed 2,000 of that right off the bat. Could turn their attentions to the Gold Fury as that respawns right now, and that looks like where Flashpoint is heading, trying to finish off some of these late game power items. Sops nearly completing either a Wind Demon or a Poison Star. He's going to be full build after that. It's going to be a Wind Demon. He actually already has the Poison Star.
Having a lot of crit chance under his belt once that's completed will be a total of 60% with a little bit of a boost from the Poison Star. So that's going to limit the dive potential from Grave and MandoWarrior. As the crits happen, we'll proc that Poison Star to limit some of the DPS options.
Tier 2 tower the call. Going to wait on that Gold Fury as Grave blinks forward, finds 3 with the knockup and 1 purification beats. ManRay has to use both relics, but more importantly, Hunbat's ultimate used and no kills come of it. That has been the entire crux of Flashpoint's team fights, has been that Hunbat's ultimate. This is the first time that they don't really get a lot for it, and SPL Gatekeepers are able to defend.
Well, having a little bit of cooldown reduction for Mexiety between that Jotun's Wrath and the Hydra's Lament. Don't forget, Spirit's Robe means that will come back very quickly, so he's just waiting for the perfect timing. His blink is still available.
Still has that blink, as you mentioned. Still has Aegis as well, as Tier 2 tower does fall, even with that ultimate on cooldown. A little scary to try and defend. Flashpoint now pushing forward. We talked about the Fear No Evil being down, but Gatekeepers used 3 ultimates of their own there, including that ever-important Zeus ult. So take a look at their push because of that. In comes the minion wave, waiting to try and remove those backdoor protections with use of their own minions.
However, the one important ultimate remaining for Gatekeepers is DayToRemeber. If there's a frontliner from Flashpoint out of position, he will get rooted into trouble. Terra's Blessing from Shadowq, Dharmic Pillars on the side. There goes the ultimate from Grave.
Sops already very low, though, has to use the shell from Shadowq in order to stay alive. MandoWarrior kind of isolated for the moment, but he's still really tanky. Half HP is still a lot to deal with as Flashpoint forced off of that Phoenix, even with use of multiple ultimates there. Not only the final judgment, the Terra's Blessing, the Somersault Cloud, Mexiety had Fear No Evil back and ready to go. Still not able to find any kills or an objective. But Flashpoint still not too upset about it. They get that final tier 2. Now they're looking at the Portal Demon.
If they get the next Fire Giant once it respawns, that's going to allow Flashpoint to start sieging these Phoenixes, but it was actually Flashpoint that couldn't find the Blink Fear No Evil. They had to use it defensively. The rest of Gatekeepers, though, they want to apply a lot of pressure onto Flashpoint, trying to control this very important Portal Demon.
Mexiety almost has that ultimate again, has Blink still, didn't use it under that Phoenix Siege. Portal Demon down below 50% HP. ManRay using Final Judgment as a deterrent. Flashpoint gonna get it and
Pain
now
is
go
low.
right on the aggressive.
Pain is very low. That could be the one focus. It's actually gonna be on Grave instead. He's gonna get hit by that Fear No Evil, able to jump away to the rest of his team. I'm really surprised Flashpoint didn't just go onto PainDeViande that was trickling away on the right-hand side.
They needed some sort of follow-up of that Fear No Evil. Mexiety does do good damage, but no Deathbringer, no big crits after the abilities there. Didn't roll well, so kind of need that Final Judgment or damage from ManRay to follow up with, and just didn't have it with how far away Grave was.
Between the Winged Blade trying to limit the slows from MandoWarrior and the Spirit's Robe that's going to mitigate a lot of the damage after Grave's ultimate, those are two defensive items for Mexiety, and without those important Deathbringer crits, that's going to limit some of the pick potential now in the late game. Batz with the Hydra's Lament and Deathbringer can really two-shot a lot of these squishy in the backlines.
Mexiety sells the Winged Blade for Mantle of Discord, looking for more, sacrificing some HP and survivability on the slow immunity for this protection item that gives him that stun whenever he falls below 30% HP. But I don't know. I think I'd rather see... Now he's sitting at 50% CDR. He's got 20 from the Jotuns, and then a bunch from the Hydras, the Spirit's Robe, and the Mantle of Discord. I think you're right. Maybe Deathbringer instead of one of those two cloaks?
Sure. Some of these, but all of those cooldown items are just too good to pass up with the rest of their stats. You could still be overstatted in CDR, but the rest of the benefits are just so impactful. Spirit's Robe, for example, wouldn't even need CDR, and there would still be people to pick it up just for that passive.
Two-man silence from Pain, but big damage onto him as Shadowq finds the stun. Knock up onto Shadowq, but still not enough to find the kill. Final Judgment takes away 80% of moswal's HP, and now the Snipes are going to try to do the rest. Shell comes through. Snipes a little bit off the mark as he's juking away XenonHawk, who now may fall. He gets locked down in that lightning storm. Sops went a little bit too far forward, and moswal still alive. Sops is not.
ManRay is going to take a spill as well to Grave. That's two dead members for Flashpoint. Mexiety was trying to find moswal in the backline, couldn't really help the rest of his team, and now Gatekeepers with an opening towards this Fire Giant.
What it looked like it was all Flashpoint for the last 15 minutes or so now switches back towards the Gatekeepers. Fire Giant down below 50% HP. This one's free, Tully.
That's what it seems like completely. If we look at the player damage here, I'm really curious to see where Mexiety is standing here. It's actually ManRay at the top. Mexiety sitting in the middle of the pack here, which is right on par with Grave, but as a Batz in the late game, you're really looking for those big crit numbers.
I mean, the Fear No Evils have been so impactful, though. I think that he's gone less for the I'm going to be the one doing the damage, and I'm going to set ManRay up to do the damage. I'm going to set Sops up to do the damage, and that has worked very, very well for Flashpoint in the mid game, but now that we're reaching the late game, could start to see Mexiety need to put out a little bit more damage. Problem is there, I think that Flashpoint just starts to see red as soon as moswal's HP gets very, very low, and that puts Sops out of position. That puts ManRay out of position. XenonHawk gets peeled beautifully by Pain, and good jukes by moswal lead to a bad fight for Flashpoint when they could have just forced moswal out of that fight and then taken the 5v4 instead of trying to dive him.
The shell and the sprint from Pain just kept moswal alive for a little bit longer. Luckily for the Zeus, he also had his Aegis up to be able to survive that initial dunk from XenonHawk. And now with the Fire Giant for SPL Gatekeepers, it's their turn to siege these tier 2 towers.
They already only have one left. Grave blinks forward and finds a bunch of air with that ultimate, but should be up soon enough anyways. Got some CDR himself.
Zoning ultimate, right? They didn't want to allow Flashpoint to come back into it.
He was thinking 10 steps ahead, Tully. If Flashpoint step up there, he gets a 5-man knockup, and they instantly win the game. If they back up, who cares? I forced them back.
You know? It looked flashy, though. It looked cool.
It's the spin. It's like the...
Sometimes you have to perfect your craft, even in the heat of battle.
Yeah, and Graves like, hey, watch out. I'll do this to you. I'm going to hit you next time if you're not careful.
You know, sometimes the threat is actually greater than the initial action.
You always have these like little phrases that I don't know if you're coming up with those or if like you've read them somewhere, but it's the preparation. Good luck is when preparation meets opportunity. Things like that. You just have a million of those little phrases, and even if anyone else doesn't enjoy them, Toli, I want you to know that I do.
I appreciate you, Aggro.
Thank you, Toli. Our bonding session has really... Ron, no one needs to know about that, okay? We left tier 2. The only tower is still standing. Nearly even in terms of kills. 17 to 16 on the scoreboard. So now the tier 2 tower begins the siege. Emperor's Armor coming through from Pain, I believe. No, that is Shadowq's there. Trying to buff up these towers and Phoenixes defensively.
Looking like their siege will continue to the left-hand side with some of these completed items. Now everybody's looking to be full build, looking to find the correct opening with Fire Giant still on the Gatekeepers for another minute and 10 seconds. It's going to be up to Grave to engage with this Blink ultimate.
Still waiting on that Blink ultimate. Has it ready to go, but so does Mexiety. And remember, those Fear No Evils have been incredibly impactful in this game. It's just a matter of if ManRay will be able to hit an ultimate off of those.
And that's what XenonHawk is trying to prevent by getting that jungler into combat. Now, Sops trying to do the damage from a distance, but ManRay is forced out of the fight very early.
Big damage out of moswal, forced him out. Grave in the first one in to tank that Phoenix. He goes down to about 50% HP for not a whole lot of damage onto that Phoenix. ManRay now back, charging up that final judgment. Doesn't fire it quite yet, but Pain drops an ultimate of his own. A lot of dancing here as Sops gets hit by that permafrost. XenonHawk, second one to pull the trigger on the ultimate on his team. MandoWarrior taking quite a bit of damage. ManRay looking with that final judgment, but just still waiting. Holds it.
The threat, I'm telling you, man, Gatekeepers just don't want to get too close. They're trying to get somebody from Flashpoint out of position and get them locked down. Grave with his Blink, with his ultimate still available. Shadowq used his, XenonHawk used theirs, whereas Gatekeepers, they don't have the Dharmic Pillars or the Caldeirald.
Left side, Phoenix Siege still continues for the Gatekeepers. moswal did quite a bit of damage to ManRay when he really wasn't too close to him, and now ManRay's got to be worried about that Chain Lightning detonation combination. A little bit off the mark this time for moswal, just too far away is Flashpoint. Fire Giant falls off of the Gatekeepers, and so they begin their retreat, but Mexiety doesn't want to let it go. He jumps forward, still has that Blink, still has that ultimate. There it is, but it pushes everyone away from Flashpoint, and here comes the re-engage from the Gatekeeper. Sprint popped it, up goes MandoWarrior. Ultimate comes down from moswal and Pain, but not enough damage to find anyone quite yet. Sops takes to the sky, and not enough to find anyone because everyone's still pretty healthy here. Xenon going forward. DayToRemeber, the one in the front line, he falls very low.
moswal was actually forced out of the fight as well from the snipes coming out of Sops. A lot of back and forth action, and nobody dies here in the late game. Almost unheard of in the SPL whenever you have everyone with a completed build.
10 ultimates. 10 ultimates used.
No one dies.
0 kills. We're 43 minutes in. No kills.
ManRay and Mexiety still having their Aegis, along with moswal, both with his 2 defensive relics. Really surprised. But Fire Giant respawning now. This is the next point of contention. All the Phoenixes will breathe a little bit longer.
Sops the one to take the speed buff, needing it to stay alive in the backline potentially. DayToRemeber, first one here, and he's all alone. If Flashpoint recognized this as an excellent opportunity for a pick, but now the front line shows up to assist their Hunter. Portal Demon, the safer pull here. Don't want to throw away a free Fire Giant. Portal Demon goes down, and it does glow red for Flashpoint. So that's a good start for them. Now they can kind of take these poke wars and just back and use that portal if necessary.
However, if they're trying to chase down Gatekeepers, they have to worry about 2 abilities. The Permafrost from DayToRemeber and the Chain Lightning from moswal, but the Fire Giant will be pulled. It's less than half health. Gatekeepers are trying to respond, but Flashpoint, they're just going to reset it. I don't think that Gatekeepers were in position to truly contest that.
Well, either way, now they are, and now Shadowq pops the ultimate. Big damage onto the back line from moswal's Chain Lightning, and Grave immediately into the back to try and assist. There's a Fear No Evil final judgment being charged, and it fires off and knocks down Grave. ManRay evens the score at 17 apiece. DayToRemeber still in that front line, can't quite chase anybody down. moswal knocks both ManRay and Sops to very, very low, but Grave the only one who goes in.
There's 3 members from Flashpoint trying to control this Fire Giant side. They could be a little bit overextended here, considering there's 4 still from the Gatekeepers. The ultimates are not available for Mexiety, ManRay, Shadowq, and this could be the one capitalization for Gatekeepers with the Lightning Storm from moswal.
Fire Giant again to 50% HP. DayToRemeber and moswal back with Pain. Fire Giant still leashed here, and I don't think anyone's going to get in range. Fire Giant, their 3rd of the game for Flashpoint. Now they're going to push forward. Looking for the snipes is sops. He's looking for moswal, who has the Aegis, and XenonHawk decides to let him go because the rest of his backline is getting torn apart by MandoWarrior. He's going to exit now that he got his job done.
XenonHawk going into the clouds, landing onto MandoWarrior. Sprint being popped by Pain, trying to run away. XenonHawk is not letting this go. He's going to use that bird form just to slow, forcing the stun side of PainDeViande. The rest of Flashpoint with Fire Giant feeling very bold, trying to get some of these Phoenixes, but instead will peel back, getting the Gold Fury just to maybe get some 3K gold potions.
We said at the beginning of the broadcast, totally, we might be in for a long one today, and game one certainly going that way so far. Hopefully you've stocked up at home on your snacks because you may need them 47 minutes in. And honestly, you would think the next team fight is going to win the game, but how many team fights have we seen now past 40 minutes where either no one dies or only one person dies?
And this is just almost unheard of, like I was saying before. These tanky warriors from Gatekeepers have just staying alive for so long. A lot of these shells to boot. There's 3 shells on the side of Gatekeepers to keep everybody topped off, whereas Flashpoint are sitting on 2 currently, so we're seeing a difference in that category.
Shogun's Kasari was purchased by XenonHawk. You mentioned that you'd like to see one on the side of Flashpoint in order to boost up that attack speed from Sops, who went for that Warrior Tabi. But between the extra attack speed from the Wind Demon, whenever you get a crit, and you get extra movement speed and attack speed, that's the word I was looking for. And then Executioner, your pick-me-up steroid, Ram going to be hitting that 2.5 cap pretty easily, even without that Shogun's potentially.
And even having the gas pedal from the upgraded sprint coming out of Shadowq, he can run a lot of people down as long as he doesn't get really bursted by the chain lightning the way he did in that last engagement. However, that was off of a stationary Fire Giant. At this time around, as Flashpoint continued to siege the left side Phoenix, everybody's going to be extremely mobile.
Fire Giant still on the side of Flashpoint for over a minute and a half. Relic situation. ManRay, the only one without an Aegis, past the next 5 seconds. Everyone else pretty clean for the moment, but Shadowq's got to wait about 10 seconds for that shell. On the other side, no Aegis for about 20 seconds for moswal, shell, and blink coming up for MandoWarrior and Grave, respectively. There's the blink, Fear No Evil coming out of Mexiety, pushes MandoWarrior back, but really in the name of pushing out DayToRemeber from this fight. Left side Phoenix down to about 50% HP as Pain is the focus for the moment. Final Judgment comes through and knocks down moswal, but not enough to find that kill quite yet. Sops in the sky. He escapes towards the back of his team as the left side Phoenix does eventually fall.
First Phoenix of the game finally falling. Flashpoint, though, they're going to back on out for a little bit, trying to sustain off of the monolith from Shadowq, really trying to bait Gatekeepers out of position here. Still a 5-on-5 without any picks to be called for. But ManRay, look at this. He's the first one to enter here in that mid lane.
MandoWarrior, the first one up. Flashpoint, big damage out of moswal, finds the kill onto Sops. There's that Zeus man senior damage that we've been missing for so long. DayToRemeber uses the ultimate as the Gatekeepers try and chase down Flashpoint. ManRay very low, horrific emblem used, and MandoWarrior gonna clean him up. XenonHawk forcing the somersault cloud. That leaves Shadowq all alone. Knockup not gonna hit because of the passive from Terra, but they don't need it. Gatekeepers find 3 in the blink of an eye, and what looked like it was going to be Flashpoint's end now could be Gatekeepers.
It's all up to this final siege. Mexiety and XenonHawk, the Monkey Brothers, trying to keep their relegation dreams alive against 5 strong, healthy members out of Gatekeepers. The left side Phoenix took a spill from Gatekeepers earlier on, but now they're looking to get the Titan.
Gotta focus down the Titan here. Can't afford to waste damage on anyone else. Lightning Storm comes in. Totally, that's gonna do it. The Gatekeepers make the comeback. They had the lead, they gave it away, they took it back, and they beat Flashpoint in the first game of the NA Relegations.
Wow. The first 10 minutes, all Gatekeepers, and then after trying to go for a very early Gold Fury, or sorry, rather early Fire Giant, that's what slowly allowed Flashpoint to get back into it. They were down about 5,000 gold, then started to take charge here with the plays from ManRay. The long-range artillery shots from him and Sops allowed Flashpoint to slowly get back into the game, but all it took was one out-of-position Ram with a to get hit by a chain lightning detonate.
But how out of position was Sops there? Because, I mean, moswal throws the shield, and then chain lightning hits the shield, hits ManRay, hits Sops, hits someone else, hits Sops, and then it's detonate. I don't know if Sops had the Aegis up. I wasn't, I didn't think to check that, but who knows if it would have even mattered. I mean, that's such quick burst in that situation.
And a lot of bursts coming out of Grave, the jungler for Gatekeeper, making a huge impact in this early game. Not really respecting the level 2 power between Mexiety and XenonHawk. And this is what allowed Gatekeepers to start to control at least the early game.
This was huge for the Gatekeepers, absolutely. These two on the right side of the map made big plays early on. Before, this is that combination killed Grave on the first speed buff invade. The second time, he doesn't die initially from the Fear No Evil, and all of a sudden, it just goes the Gatekeeper's way from there. Grave in the early game, certainly a big reason why Gatekeepers got the big lead. But then in the late game, I mean, everyone else from Gatekeepers really stepped up.
It was basically a team battle between Grave and Mexiety in terms of who got the better Blink ultimate off first. And, you know, MandoWarrior took a lot of success off of the initial engage from Grave.
I mean, when you get handed a massive lead like Mando did in that solo lane, you got to make sure you can make it count, and Mando certainly did. His late game team fighting was really, really solid. His mid game, positioning, just trying to get everyone out of way for his backliners. He was consistently chasing down ManRay, who wasn't able to make as big of an impact in the late game as he had in the mid.
And the horrific emblem selection for the Osiris was so impactful in the mid and the late game. These solo laners are starting to neglect going for the teleport, picking up Swiftwing in the earlier stages. We didn't really talk about it during the cast, but that's allowing them to pick up multiple defensive team relics.
Well, that's game one, and it was, what, 50-something minutes? Hope you're ready. We're going to go to a quick break as we check out the other two teams we haven't seen so far today. AI versus a Mighty Storm coming up next.
Wish that I could stay.